How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I'm your host, Dr. Will, and today we are talking about that money, 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 money. We have, and I've been waiting on this guest for a while. All right, financial expert Dominique Broadway. How are you doing, Dominique?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, all right. You just have the coolest name too.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone
Oh,
always thinks it's fake. It's actually real. So,
awesome, awesome. Yeah, I first came across you on Levo.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, some awesome stuff. And so then from there, I started following you and watching your videos, and I knew that what I wanted to do with my audience is to bring uh, that piece in because normally I do talk about issues related to education and leadership, but from time to time I like to throw that personal development and talk about uh, health and wellness, and now talking about the finances.
Okay.
So for those who are watching the show, will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Dominique Broadway. I'm an award-winning financial planner, personal finance expert, and the founder of Finances Demystified, where we work with millennials, entrepreneurs, and creatives, helping them to demystify their finances and to bring their dreams to reality.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what does or should financial planning mean to the average person? And what are some financial goals people should take in their 20s, 30s, 40s, etc., to plan for retirement?
I think financial planning kind of means different things to different people based on where you are in life, and what your goals are. So I think it varies. So let's say for maybe someone who is just starting out, and fresh out of college, financial planning to them is really just trying to plan to maybe move move out of their parents' house, and get a place of their own, or figuring out what's their financial plan to pay down their debt or whatever it may be, versus someone who, let's say, is in their late 50s, who are finally realizing, okay, I need to start financially planning and preparing for retirement. So I think it definitely depends, based on the person and where they are in their life. But essentially, financial planning is taking the necessary steps and creating strategies, and a plan and goals around your financial life and what you want that next stage in your life to look like. If that's planning for next week, or planning for 40 years from now. And then as far as, I guess, what are some financial goals that people have? It that also varies as well. So, let's say most people in their 20s, they're maybe thinking about maybe buying their first home, or just like a lot of people are just moving out of their homes with their parents, saving for trips, whatever it may be. For me, it was a little bit different. Like, I bought my first house when I was young at 22. So, knocking that goal out very quickly was not something that I needed to plan for after 22, right? So then for me, it's more about building wealth, starting a company, versus the average 20-year-old or person in their 20s are kind of doing kind of like more basic financial stuff. And then they hit 30s and are trying to buy a house, or get married or whatever it may be. But I mean, as far as, I guess, retirement goes, I think, the earlier you can start, the better when it comes to retirement. I mean, a lot of people wait until they're like 50 and like, oh no, I need to save for retirement, instead of, taking those steps, in their 20s. And, it's proven that if you can start, if you can save less, if you start earlier. So if you start even saving $50 a month or $100 a month, it will equal, more, versus you trying to save, $1,000 a month starting at age 50, or 40. So, that's kind of, I guess, some of the goals that I've seen people have, and how to start really planning, I guess, for retirement.
Okay, cool. Now, most of us who work in public education, we have these state pension plans we pay into every month.
Hmm.
Now, there are other plans out there to supplement our state retirements, but
Hmm.
when looking at those, what should we be looking for?
Um, so I guess when you're looking for, other plans to supplement, I like to say you should have, after tax money in addition to pre-tax money and tax-free money, right? So, when it comes to retirement. So example, with the state pension plans, that's all typically, pre-tax money. You haven't paid taxes on that money yet. So once you, get to be 65 or whatever age people are retiring at nowadays, you're typically going to be in a higher tax bracket, and who knows how the election is going to go. So we don't really know who's going to be president, if the tax laws will change. So, that's one of the things that you want to be thinking about. I have all this pre-tax money that hasn't been taxed. If you're looking for a supplemental plan, you need to get something that will maybe be after tax money. So money that that you've already paid taxes on when you were, maybe younger. You don't have to worry about paying taxes on it when you get older. But also having, tax-free money, which for a lot of times is, kind of saving through a life insurance policy or some sort of alternative investment that gives you the ability to not have to pay taxes on this money when you need to use it in retirement. So I think those are some of the things that people need to look for when they're looking for supplemental plans that I really think a lot of times they don't think about, because people are like, oh, yay, my job's been saving for me, or I've been saving through this retirement plan. And it's like, yay, that's great. But even if you have $100,000, you're probably going to have to pay almost maybe 40% taxes on that. So you're really only walking away with 60,000, and that's a huge difference. And so for a lot of people, it's like a rude awakening for them once they hit retirement age.
So now here's and you brought that up and made me start thinking about like our own retirement plan, where you can get like that big lump sum, or you can kind of go with the monthly payments.
Yeah.
What is the best case? Does it depend on people's circumstances for them to sort of go with the lump sum, or is it advisable for them to just go with the monthly payments?
It does depend on each situation, right? So it depends on, sometimes, let's say, situations like your significant other, what's going to be their financial situation in retirement. And that a lot of times can have a factor on if you should take the lump sum or if you should take the monthly payment. A lot of times people who take the lump sum is because maybe they also have some other retirement funds as well that they're going to use, or they have some plans, or they have plans for the lump sum, or they have ways to grow that lump sum bigger than what they would get if they took the monthly payment. So it just really depends. But I think, when that time comes, or when you're getting close to that time, you should sit down with a financial planner and kind of run those scenarios for you. Because, let's say if you were able to accumulate a lot of wealth outside of this pension plan, it might be good to let that sit, or maybe it won't, because, it will affect you tax wise. So it really does depend on each situation. But that's why people should definitely, and I think people don't do this enough, but sit down with a financial planner before you retire to see what the implications are of taking the lump sum versus taking, the annuity payment throughout the rest of your life.
Excellent. So I want to talk about cost savings and putting away money to save. You hear all of these people talk about all of these things, and I've seen these TV shows on these couponers who they buy all this stuff for like $8, right? And I'm like, wow. Is it really as simple as cutting back on the daily run to Starbucks?
I think it could be for some people as simple as that, but for most people, it's not. Even with the couponers, like, I love a good coupon code myself. I'm all about saving some money, but I'm not about to spend a day, a month cutting coupons and strategically going to stores. That's just not me, right? To save a couple bucks. But I think for some people, even, that daily run to Starbucks, you're spending, not even $5. Most people I see, they're spending $10 a day, right, at Starbucks. Let's just say that's $50 a week. That's $200 a month, right? And $200 is, for some people, so for some people it may be a big thing. For some people, it's not. So it just depends on your entire financial situation. But cutting back on those things that you spend on frequently that are what I like to say slowly draining you, that can be huge. So even if it's something like a Starbucks where it's $200 a month, and you're not saving anything, yeah, totally. That could be a big make or break for you. Where if you completely cut out your Starbucks, you could start saving that $200 a month instead of being paycheck to paycheck, right? So I think it definitely depends. But I think what I want people to do is to start thinking more abundantly. And, cutting back is great. But for me, instead of cutting back, I just go make more money. And I think that, if we can sometimes even think bigger, think about the skills that we have that can bring in more income instead of having to limit our lifestyles. No, let's live the lifestyles that we desire, but let's just make sure we are able to go out and create the financial means to do so. So I hope that people, do take the time to start thinking more abundantly, thinking bigger. If you want to desire bigger things, that's fine. But if you're not there yet, or you don't have ways to kind of bring in that extra income, cutting back those little things such as going to happy hour, going to brunch, buying shoes every day or whatever it may be can really help you save more money.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you about that abundance coming up.
Okay.
Now let's jump into credit, because credit is serious business, as you know. I mean, you can not get a job because you have a low credit score.
Yeah.
How often should people check their credit reports, and what are some of the steps people can take to raise their credit scores?
Yeah. So, I think, you should, it's like a myth that people think that if they check their own credit, it will affect their score. That's a myth. So you can check your own credit as much as you want. There's free tools such as credit.com, Credit Karma, Credit Sesame that give you the ability to, really keep track of your credit score frequently, getting updates sometimes weekly or monthly. So I think that you should be very in sync and very in tune with your credit score and always know what's going on with it to prevent you from not getting that job, because you weren't aware that something, negative was on your score, or, prevent you from getting that house or apartment that you want because there's things on your credit report that you weren't aware of. As far as raising the score, there's a lot of things you can do to raise your score, sometimes even pretty quickly. One of the biggest things you could do is pay down debt. Obviously, if you're able to pay down your debt, your what's it called, available credit is gets increased, which increases your score. Or sometimes for people it may be as simple as calling up, if your credit's somewhat decent already, calling up some of your credit card companies and asking them to increase your credit card limits or increase your limits so that you can have more available credit, which looks very positive positively affects your credit score. But outside of that, if you have things that are that have been charged off or put into collections, calling your credit card companies and asking them, or your lender, or whoever your lender is, and asking them, if it's especially if it's something that was charged off, like, hey, can I do what I call a pay for delete? Essentially, if I pay this, will you delete stuff off my credit report? I would say 7 times out of 10, depending on the amount, if it's not anything too big, usually over 1,000, they will do that. They'll allow you to pay it off, and they will take it off your credit report completely, which is a really great tactic to get things removed off your credit report. Outside of that, just keeping all of your available balances less than 30% is key. A lot of people will let their credit limits or let their credit balances hit their credit limits and be real close to that limit at all times, and that has a huge impact on your score. So those are some things people can do, or kind of like steps people can take to kind of raise your score a little bit higher.
Cool. I love the tips. Information. Now we got to talk about this side hustle money, because when you talking about the abundance, okay, you got me excited. Now, but my question is, sometimes, things happen with the abundance. And what I mean by that is, like I know a lot of teachers who they tutor, they consult, they write books, they adjunct teach. And so the first thing I want to talk about is how does one go about discovering their side hustle? And then secondly, when you start making that money, how do you make that money without it biting you in the butt during tax time?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think discovering your side hustle, I think taking time to figure out what's that thing that well, as they say, what's that thing that you would do even if no one paid you, right? That may be kind of your secret passion or the thing that you're most passionate about. I know even in the finance space now, what I do, you know, speaking to groups, although I get paid to speak, it's something that I would do for free because it's something that I enjoy to do and I enjoy to motivate people, you know? So, you know, figuring out what that thing is, and sometimes it's for some people it's that thing that you're already doing for people anyway, right? So for some people it's like, oh, I do all my friends' hair. It's like, okay, yeah, you're doing all your friends' hair, but you're not charging them, right? That's technically a you know, a side hustle. Or hey, I'm tutoring and helping these people, just start charging people. So I think taking the time to just even, you know, checking yourself out over a couple of weeks and saying, hey, what's that thing that I'm doing that people are asking me to do, but I'm just not asking them for money for it? That's one way to figure out, you know, what your side hustle is. And then, you know, I guess kind of avoiding getting bit in the butt during tax time. You know, there's not tons of ways to avoid it. I mean, obviously you could totally work on a cash basis and avoid taxes. But I always tell people, you know, if you have a larger tax bill, you know, be grateful. That means you made more money. And that's not a bad problem to have. So, you know, I think, you know, really the only way to avoid is really to take cash, or, you know, obviously keeping your receipts and, excuse me, tracking all your business expenses so that you can write down some of that side hustle income is helpful as well. But hey, if they're taxing you more, that means you're making more money. So it's definitely a good problem to have.
Yeah, well, we got hit, and we don't have any children.
Mhm.
So, but when we went to see the accountant, the accountant was like, "You see this 1099?" She said, "This is your child right here."
Yeah.
And so I was able to deduct the home office and a certain percentage of uh, telephone and internet and all of that stuff. And of course, I had my receipts for any equipment that I bought that I use for consulting
Mhm.
and stuff like that. Uh, but it was definitely something I was like, I got to do something. Like, do I need to go adopt? Do I?
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely not the answer, but super interesting. No, but I mean, even for me with my business, I mean, you're writing off, you know, obviously, you know, the income that you're paying to employees or contractors. You know, even little things like Facebook ads, you know, you can write that off, or,
Ooh.
you know, travel. I travel a lot, so that's always a huge deduction for me. Dinners, you know, dinners for events or dinners for clients, or just, you know, anytime I go out to, you know, go out to eat and someone mentions, you know, finances demystified. It's a business event as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, it's all those little things that slowly add up, obviously, in addition to, um, you know, donating, or, you know, donating your time or donating your money, are other ways that you can kind of write off. So there's a lot of ways to kind of get around. If you have a good tax professional, they'll be able to you know, identify those things.
Awesome, awesome. This has been amazing, and I've learned a lot myself, because as I'm hitting 40, I'm 42. I
Mhm.
can't run around from that. I'm more focused, on my finances, and more focused on saving, and doing those other things like consulting to actually bring in extra money and hopefully raise my stature to where, I can go out there and do some other things.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely important.
Awesome. So again, people, I want to thank Dominique for being on the show.
Yes, thanks
Uh,
for having me.
thank you, thank you. I always am very shocked when people say, "Yeah, I want to be on your show," because I'm just a dude with a hangout. So again, everyone, this is going to be on YouTube. This will be on my blog, and this will be on SoundCloud, and I'm going to tweet it out to everyone and pop it on LinkedIn. So as always, be you, E to you, peace.